7:02 by my computer display. Welcome, everyone. Like to open with a roll call of members present at this time. So Marla, why don't you go ahead and start it off?
Marla Butts, Commissioner.
Bill Rowinski.
Bert Peasley.
And Mark Parker, Chair. Victor Peabody may or may not make it, but Tina LaJoy let us know that she did contact him if he wanted to go to the town hall to connect, but he hasn't shown up yet, so. So the agenda that we have is that we will take action on the minutes of the previous meeting, the November 16th meeting. Did everyone receive a packet? I received my packet today in the mail, but by the way, so I don't know how the rest of you are doing.
I got mine about 6 o'clock tonight. Yeah. So.
Wow, okay.
I got mine on Saturday.
Or Paul, do you have anything to add to that?
I have something to say.
It was mailed out on Thursday, just saying.
Except it's on 2 calls.
Oh, okay, all right.
So in the new software, emergency reporting, which is the one that.
Okay. I guess that was Seth or someone, they're muted now. Okay. Hi, Seth. Okay. So yeah, we take a look at the minutes of the November meeting, and does anyone have any comments, corrections?
Marla Butts speaking. I looked at it. I didn't see any corrections.
Bill Rowinski. I didn't see any need for corrections.
I looked at it briefly. I didn't see it in that it needed anything.
Bill Rowinski, I move we accept the minutes from the November 16th, 2020 Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency regular meeting.
I second that motion.
Thank you very much. The motion's been made by Bill Rowinski, seconded by Marla Butts to accept the minutes of the November 16th Inland Wetlands and Watercourses Agency meeting. Are there any further questions or discussions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you very much. Okay. Under new business, we have application 11-20-37, Ronald Petro, 155 Payne Road, restoration of pond, use permitted as of right. So we have the paperwork here. Ron, are you on? Yeah, Ron, are you on the call or a representative?
Yes, I'm on.
Okay. Ron, do you have any comments or anything you want to clarify or?
No, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. I'm not sure how this procedure works, so I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Any other
Marla Butts speaking. I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Marla.
In your documentation that you submitted, you said that the town of Woodstock added a culvert underneath the road that's to the north of your pond. When was that done?
That's correct, Marla.
Exactly.
And I believe that was somewhere around 2016 or 2017.
The question I have next is for Tina. Tina, have you been able to verify with Public Works when they added the culvert underneath the road near the Butts property?
Yes, I spoke with John Navarro and he was actually supposed to be on this call. He was going to call in and I just messaged him. I'm hoping that before the meeting is over that he will sign in and be able to answer your questions. He did receive the information that Mr. Petro submitted so that he could go through it, and I know he did have some comments. So we
So
may.
we don't know right now exactly when the culvert on the road near the Butts property was put in.
I don't have any verification on the date on that from him.
Now I'm going to go back to the applicant. You stated that after, in your documentation, that after you, after he added the culvert, you started having erosion problems on your property. Did you put in a drawing with, I didn't get a drawing in my application papers for this. Did you do up a drawing showing where the erosion was, where the problems were?
No, but I had sent John Navarro a video of it. I had met with John when the problems started. And,
Okay.
you know, John said it wasn't his problem because he didn't change the volume of water when in fact, there's twice as much water coming underneath the road during a heavy storm as there used to be prior to the second culvert. So no, I just asked John to come over to take a look at the problem. He did and said it wasn't the town's problem, which I disagreed with, but what could I do? And
So
videos,
I'm looking at an aerial.
the videos
Sorry.
that I sent to John, and I tried sending Tina, and if I knew how, I have them queued up here. I could play them for you, but it would show you exactly what happened after the second culvert was put in, and the how it expanded the brook, made it much wider, additional channels, and how it overflows now into the hayfield instead of going into the pond.
Marla Butt speaking. I'm looking at an aerial photograph taken in 2019, and it shows braiding of the brook immediately south of Payne Road. The distance, I'm not sure how far down it is, but let's see. Looks like it's about from where the culvert ends. It starts at about 60 feet or so south from the culvert on Payne Road and continues on till about 140 feet. Now that's all braided stream. That's not confined to a channel. But after that, it goes into a fairly confined channel until it gets just before the bridge under your driveway. And then it braids again a little bit there. And then it goes back to a channel again until it reaches the pond. So there's a clearly defined channel there. There also appears to be wetlands associated with the water course. Your application states that you want to pipe the brook, but I don't know where you want to pipe it, and that your contractor wants to put in 3 impervious dikes on the brook, but I don't know where those are, with the intent to capture sediments that might be eroding in the channel. Do you have you contacted an engineer at all to discuss what the sizing of your pipes should be and whether or not there's wetlands that are associated with this water course that would get filled by your piping of the water course?
No, I have not.
Okay.
And as far as from the road down to the culvert, the braiding of the brook, since we bought the property in 2006, there was a very defined stream coming from the one culvert that was under the road, meandering through what we called the ravine, all the way down to the driveway, where it went underneath, and it continued in one stream, one channel, all the way to the pond. When the second culvert was put in, every time there's a heavy rain, such as there just was, the single stream that came from the road to the driveway culverts became multiple streams, much wider than it was. And again, the video that I have will show you all that. Once it got to the driveway, I know it was engineered because I have 3 18-inch culverts under my driveway, which was always more than enough to contain the 1 18-inch culvert that came from underneath Payne Road. Ever since the second culvert was put in, my 3 culverts get filled up. The water backs up prior to the driveway where they enter the culvert, flows into the hayfield on the west side of my driveway, comes underneath, and then flows in the multiple streams now towards the pond. But when it gets to a certain point where it takes a slight left-hand turn, the water just overflows the banks, and all the silt and muck and everything else pushes out into the hayfield. And again, the pictures and video that I have would show you that, because the hayfield becomes flooded instead of it going into the pond. There's a ton of silt that ends up in the pond, out in the hayfield. The entire pond is surrounded by probably 2 to 3 feet of silt, which we were hoping to dredge out so that we'd have a pond that actually contained clear water instead of all the silt. As far as
Marla, but
the pipe, we would talk, the impervious dams, the 3 impervious dams would be put in just west of the driveway before the water enters my 3 culverts, to trap any sediment and silt and vegetation before it actually enters the 3 culverts and goes underneath my driveway. On the opposite side of the driveway, we want to put in a plunge pool so that any sediment would go down to the bottom. We could dig that out when need be. The pipe, 30-inch pipe, would be above the lowest level of the plunge pool, and it would carry nothing but clearer water straight down to the pond, so that it guarantees that this fire pond would be full at all times, and I could actually use it and count on it as water for my cattle.
so, I have a question for Mark. I sent an email to you containing a photograph of this site in 2016. And I also sent it to Tina, and I sent copies to all the other commissioners, and one also to Crystal. Can somebody screen share that? Because that shows what the conditions were in 2016 with the topography. And I'm a little concerned about the fact that it appears that there are wetlands associated with this water course on each side of it, even from Payne Road down to the pond, and that the piping would in effect potentially cause the destruction of those wetlands. And that I'm not so sure that the piping will relieve the low flow problems that the pond has. Can anybody, do you have that? Mark, did you get that? Can you screen share that?
I need to look at my emails. I'm trying to call
I'm
it up
trying to
right
get
now.
it for you. Let me try to get it here.
Bill Rowinski, can I make a comment while we're looking? The adding of the second pipe, the question of volume is kind of a relative term into how you're looking at it. With the adding of the second pipe, sure, you still get the same volume through, but you've increased the velocity by the draining that upstream area quicker. So that creates a lot more problems, and the actual period of that volume flow is much shorter. So you're going to get more water over a shorter period of time, which is going to be a higher velocity also.
Right, with the previous smaller size of the culvert, it was creating a kind of an attenuation. It was holding back the water so that it flowed through over a longer period of time by opening it up and putting it in, and the same amount of water still comes through, but now in a much shorter time, because there's a lot of right.
And that extra velocity, which I could show you in the videos, caused nothing but erosion. And I'm not sure what pictures could possibly show that there were multiple streams coming from underneath the road, because again, we've lived here for 14 years and it was always one smaller stream going from the roadway underneath the culvert, and then one small stream going down to the pond. And the erosion that took place, in, if you saw the video, you'd see how fast the water is coming out from the culverts, and it's extreme. And it never happened before.
I'm sharing my screen now. Can anyone see the map?
Yes.
Yes, I see it.
Okay. Marla, you want to walk us through it now?
Okay, so when you look at Payne Road and you see in blue is the label for Peckham Brook,
Right here?
and the,
Yep.
yep, that's the label for Peckham Brook. So the cross culvert on Payne Road is located just to the west of the driveway that comes off of Payne Road,
Somewhere around here.
okay?
Yeah,
And
okay.
No, farther over, a little more. See the topography, topo lines? V's point
Yep, yep.
uphill. So you want to go. It's over, and I can't share my screen, so I can't tell you. It's to
Okay.
the, just immediately to the west of the driveway, leaving Payne Road. And then
Okay.
there, it's braided, and you can't see it too well, but in the 2019, it's clearly braided up near the Payne Road area for at least till about 140 feet down from Payne Road. And then it appears to be in several different channels potentially as you head down. And you see from the topography that there's probably wetlands that are associated in that gore area. And then as it heads down across, going across his driveway, where his cross culverts are on his driveway, which is located in the fields. You see where your
Okay.
arrow, put your arrow where the culvert is
Right
on his
here?
driveway,
That's
right
about it.
there, correct. Correct. And then from there going down, it stays in a pretty fine channel, not very braided, but of course there's wetlands look to be to the north and west of, east of that. And so it could clearly overflow into that. And it looks like there's a farm road that crosses that brook that he probably has some cross culverts on, right just before it gets to the pond. You see how that farm road
Marla,
crosses the brook? Yeah.
Marla, that is not a farm road. That is actually a access for the fire department to get down to the pond. There are no culverts underneath it, and I maintain that path for them to get down to the pond. It's not a
So how
farm.
does the water get under it?
The water doesn't get under it. There's no water.
How does water get under it?
The water doesn't get under that path that goes from the driveway just north of the culverts down to the pond, right about where, if you're going up, that driveway is for fire department equipment to access the pond. Seth
Okay.
will tell you that.
Okay. So it looks like there would have been a culvert across Peckham Brook just before you get to the pond.
No,
That's what it looks like.
no, that culvert right there is to get from that path over to the farm, the field, the hay field. There is a
Mhm.
culvert just below the arrow, the pointer, where the
Yeah,
stream.
what is the size of that culvert?
That's probably a 20-foot steel pipe that I'm assuming the farmer long ago put in there.
Mhm. Does that overtop?
It did, yes. It never
Does
did.
it?
It does now
Okay,
because there's so much.
so it did not over. Go ahead.
Because there's so much silt that has come down along that stream over the last couple of years, the whole thing is just filled, and it just is much shallower than it used to be, that stream you're talking about. and it overflows all the time now. Whereas before, and I could have a pond that's almost empty and any rainfall still doesn't make it to the pond. It'll overflow into the field instead of making it to the pond.
Where were you proposing to pipe the water course? What reach?
From the 3 culverts that are under the driveway, when it comes under to the east side, right there, yep, right about there, where the 3 culverts come underneath, we were gonna put a plunge pool so that the sediment, silt, whatever did make it through, and keep in mind, just on the opposite side of the driveway, there's gonna be 3 impervious dams where the water kind of takes a left-hand turn up above, right there, yeah, where it takes a left-hand turn. Between that point and the driveway culverts, we're gonna put 3 impervious dams to catch any sediment, silt, so on, debris. As the water goes through the 3 culverts underneath my driveway to the east side, we're gonna put a plunge pool, and then we're gonna put the piping, the 30-inch pipe, a straight shot from there, straight down to the pond, or to make sure that the water actually gets to the pond. Because like I said, you could have a good rainfall and it doesn't do anything for the pond because the water doesn't make it to there.
So you're saying the water is flowing from Payne Road and then disappears into the ground before it reaches the pond?
Everywhere where you see along the cursor that was just moving up and down, say where it says 400, that stream has gone from a small single stream like you think it looks like to something that's anywhere from 20 to 30 feet wide of nothing but silt, soil, and a mess. It's much, much wider than it used to be. And again, the water absorbs long before it gets to the pond.
So how far from your culverts do you propose to start piping the water course, and for how long?
Well, I'm assuming the plunge pool would be
How
about,
far?
that plunge pool right there where the cursor is, would probably be a 20 to 30 foot circular plunge pool. So that at that point, we'd start the pipe and go it's probably about 260 to 280 feet to the pond, where we'd have it go into another pool just before the pond, a small pool, to again trap any sediment that might get through the pipe. But as it is now, it's nothing makes it to the pond unless you have what we had the other day, a huge rainfall and some snow melt.
So Ron, when you said putting in a pipe and making a straight shot, you're not saying putting in a straight line, to cutting, you'd try to follow the existing, roughly this contour here.
Yes, we try to, because you're looking at we want to try and run alongside that fire department access road.
Yep. Is this 400-foot mark a hump or a depression? What is that?
That is a pile of loam and rocks that have been piled there since we moved in, or we bought the property in '06.
Okay.
Were the wetlands ever delineated for your property by a soil scientist?
I believe the Mylar that I had for it from Messier years ago showed wetlands down, further down on the screen, kind of where it looks like it says okay right now in blue, down at the bottom. And that's about where it starts. Just to the south side of that stream, those are not wetlands. Those will stay dry. Where it says brook, that's about where there's a spot of wetland, according to the Mylar. Somewhere in there, yes.
Well, Mark, I really don't think this qualifies as a agricultural exemption because it is the filling, appears to be the filling of wetlands. And there's a lot of hydraulics in here that need to be answered, particularly what the Public Works Department did and what is the ultimate solution to his problem. And it would be good to know whether or not he's got a lot of gravel here that is causing the water flow to be absorbed into the ground before it reaches the pond. I don't have a problem with cleaning the pond. I just have a problem with that extensive amount of piping. And without having any hydraulics. I just did a quick check with USGS stream stats, and it's got about not quite a tenth of a square mile of contributing drainage area to the Payne Road's culverts. And I don't know what the size culvert should be for this, even if he was piping it, because he hasn't had an engineer to take a look at it and give him any suggestions as to how to deal with it.
Well, Marla, what kind of engineering was done when the town put in a second culvert?
We're going to be looking into that, I think.
Yeah, we need to find that out.
Because I've got to tell you, first of all, like, after everything I've read and people that I've talked to, I don't understand why it wouldn't be considered agriculture, because that's a man-made pond that was made for cattle. That whole field was cattle that from the Butts farm. And I don't understand why you would say it's not agricultural farming, because that's what it was for, to water cattle.
No, what I'm saying is that the agricultural exemption is limited. It's not exclusive. And it says that the provisions for getting coverage under agriculture shall not be construed to include road construction or the erection of buildings not directly related to the farming operation, the relocation of water courses with continual flow, filling or reclamation of wetlands or water courses with continual flow.
Well,
So
we're not
I don't
looking
I don't
to,
necessarily think this, you may be filling wetlands,
well, we're not,
and I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the definition of continual flow is supposed to mean.
well, that brook is not a continual flow. It's a seasonal at best. And a lot of that, I believe, has to do with the second culvert that was put in. Again, I'm looking at the same statutes or whatever that you're looking at, relocation of water courses with continual flow. And I've got notes for myself saying, this is not a continual flow. As a matter of fact, not too long ago, Seth was out at the house because I just repaired the dry hydrant that had been broken. And Seth could see that there was no flow of water. The flow of water had long stopped by where we were standing down by the pond. So it is not a continual flow. Maybe it would be a continual flow if the second culvert hadn't been put in and done the damage that I think it did years ago. But when I read all these statutes and everything else, the pond is 0.37 acres. Again, it was used for farming. It's not a continual flow. And it would be essential for me to have that pond if I can put my cattle down there. I haven't been able to. I just got cattle in 2016. I haven't been able to put them down there because there's not a body of water that I can count on. And the thing that got this all going is that there's no, it's not a fire pond. Because of what's happened over the last few years, if there was a fire, there's no water coming out of that pond for the majority of the year. And I'm trying to make sure that it's filled up. That that pond was built correctly because whoever put it in, put a clay liner in it. It will maintain water, but again, there's so much muck in there. We're trying to clean that out. All that muck ran in there, or majority of it ran in there with the extra flows that were coming down the brook. So I think it is agricultural. I think it is not a continual flow. And I've already gone and spent $9,633 on 300 feet of pipe to try and make this better and make sure that the fire department has water, make sure that my animals have water, make sure that I can enjoy the pond as I haven't been able to do. So I'm not sure. I've already spent a lot of money, put it this way, to try and clean up that area, beautify it, make it productive to both the fire department and myself with the cattle. So I just want to make sure that I don't lose the opportunity to convince you that it's farmland, it's agricultural, it's not a continual flow, and it's a fire pond that can't be used right now.
Ron, I've got a Google Earth aerial, and I was just curious, there's a group of cows down here. Are these yours down here in the lower part of the property?
I can't see anything, Mark.
Oh, sorry. Can anyone else see? Let me try a new share.
I'm looking at Google Earth as well. Stuart Peasley speaking.
My cattle,
Okay, how about now?
Yes.
no.
There's a group of cows right here.
No, that's Hibbard's cows. My property's
Oh,
up further.
You're up here, yeah, okay.
My cattle are on that north side of the driveway. If you go down a little bit further with that cursor. Right, go up right above the driveway. Right now, they're confined to that side of the driveway.
Oh, okay.
The pond on the other side is not,
This one here?
no, to the right.
Okay, yeah,
That's the pond we're talking about.
right.
That driveway coming down from the north is the access road for the fire department.
Got it.
Now, if you tell me how to share, I'd love to share with you the videos of post-rainstorm to show you the flow of water that comes under that driveway since the second culvert was added. And what you're looking at right now, you can see that the pond is very much dried up. It should be a lot bigger than what you're looking at. It's all muck.
Yeah.
And that whole area to the south side of the access road for the fire department, that was once one little stream, but no longer. It's just 30 feet wide of silt.
Yeah.
Maybe I can, I really don't know how to share something with you, but
I can stop sharing my screen, and if you're using the Zoom hookup, you might have, let me stop sharing my screen here.
okay.
So can we, in the bottom of your screen, is there a share screen button you can click on?
Hold on. Let's see.
If you see participants, chat, share screen, record, do you have that?
Not yet.
Okay,
I've got the Zoom camera.
okay, you got this, yep. So if you've got the Zoom meeting window open,
Yep.
On the bottom left side is, there's your microphone and mute, you know, and stop video if you want. But we're not gonna, don't touch that. But in the middle bottom, there should be 5 buttons. If there's one that you can see that says share screen, click on that.
Okay.
And then it'll give you some options. And if you've got the video window open, you can click on that.
Can you see anything?
Oh, looks like you're getting there. Just click on the file.
Click on your file now. Yep. You're doing good.
I apologize. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Double click on it.
You might have to click on share screen again and make sure you've selected like share my entire desktop.
Yeah,
Because right now it might just be sharing Windows Explorer.
Okay.
right. Up at the top of the screen, it might say a new share.
New sharing, yeah.
Yeah, so if you click on that, and then a little window should pop up showing your options of different windows that you can click.
Yep. Nothing? It says you are screen sharing.
Yep.
No,
Click on new share again, and are you running the video right now in a window? There it is.
there
Got
it
it.
is.
Okay, good.
Well, let me start it over again then.
Start it over again. Yep.
Okay, what you're looking at is the north side of Payne Road. That is Butts Field. As you can see, he's got a culvert out there with a pond that he built. That culvert was overtaken by the rain. Keep in mind, this is post storm in 2018, April 18th, 2018. So this is what it looks like. I'm standing on Payne Road, and I'll video underneath Payne Road and then the continuation of the brook.
So as you move down under Payne Road, those are the 2 culverts that the town put in.
Correct. So this
Okay,
is still
got
on
it.
Butts' side.
Yep.
Here's where it's going underneath Payne Road into 2 culverts instead of 1, because it normally would pond up on Butts' side.
Yep.
Walking across Payne Road
Yep.
and where it exits to what used to be one little stream. And there's the 2 culverts down below. That's quite a flow.
Yep.
And here's where, Marla, you said it's braided, but it never used to be. You can see where it's inundated trees and everything else. So that's where it continues down to just before it gets to my driveway. And I can go to the next video, I suppose. I just gotta click on
You
this
need to,
one.
yeah, you need to start the other video and then go back up to new share. And yeah, click on the new video. Okay, now is this the culvert under Payne Road, or is this the culvert under your driveway?
Now this is looking up at the culverts on Payne Road. So I'm
Okay.
down my driveway,
Yep.
okay? The culvert on the right, I'm not sure if you can see my cursor.
Yep, we see it.
That culvert right there was the original culvert, had been there since long before I bought the property in '06. Right here is a second culvert that the highway department put in.
Yep.
That's slightly higher than the original culvert. This used to be one single little tiny brook coming down here. And you'll see how it now progresses.
Yep.
And erosion is taking place in there.
Yeah, it looks like the water coming out of the left side is a little more siltier than the water coming through the right side.
Right, but as you can see by this shot, it's created quite a large brook, no longer really a brook. And I'll show you the next video, which is 499.
But if I understand what you were saying earlier, further down the stream, as you get closer to the pond, it's built, the silt has been able to drop out and start to build up so that you've now got more of a kind of a big flat mud flat that it spreads out over.
Right. Now, can you see this one?
Yep.
Okay, now I'll set this up for you that this is, I'm standing on my driveway above the 3 culverts that go underneath the driveway.
Yep.
The brook runs under Payne Road up to the top right corner. It comes down and takes a left-hand turn to head underneath my driveway. We're talking about building 3 impervious dams in this area, 1, 2, 3, before it gets to the driveway culverts. But again, this is all area that was one single little stream. And here's what it looks like now. And it overflowed into this part too. But there's my 3 culverts being inundated. This used to be one single little brook coming out underneath here, going down to the pond, which is in the top left. See all the mud?
Yep.
All that did was push all this stream. This stream never went out here to the right. It hugged along that left bank. And you can see where it's overtaken trees. It's come over the field and it's washed across the hayfield over here on the left side, right side. The pond over here on the left, we just want to put the pipe in so the water goes straight to the pond. All this invasive brush is covering over mounds of rock and loam that had been piled up at some point, maybe in the construction or maybe by the farmer long ago. I'm really not sure.
Yep.
And the, see if I can get this one. Photos. Can you see that?
Yep.
The pond, the stream comes down from this left side and it used to come in and enter into the pond right down here.
But now, because at least during this particular storm, the water, is jumping up over the embankment, if there was one there, and coming across the field instead of continuing on to the pond.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The
I see
stream
that.
used to be, well, I don't know, probably 3 feet deep and probably 3 feet wide.
Yeah.
It's now much shallower, filled up with silt and debris, and probably 30 feet wide. But this and keep in mind, this is post rainstorm. And this field was much more flooded than it had been. And Marla, to your question about wetlands, can you see the yellow grass in here?
I see it.
That
Well,
yellow grass is the wetlands that you'll see on the Mylar.
Did we lose Marla? Is Marla on?
I'm
Oh,
here,
there-
I'm just muted.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
This area in here is not considered wetland. This area in here is, and it goes down to the tree line. This pond has an outlet right over here in the corner, the south corner. That outlet goes into a stream that runs parallel to Payne District Road and exits under Hibbard Road down by Don Hibbard's sand pit or the McElroy residence. And by my pond, and you know, maybe Don hasn't mentioned it because he's retired from farming, but Don Hibbard's heifers rely on that stream for water down by McElroy's house near Hibbard Road, where the my pond empties through and into. There's no water going down there when my pond is dried up because nothing was getting up to the outlet pipe that's over here in this corner. So, you know, I understand there's certain things that you got to follow, but I'm trying to make sure I take care of a couple problems. I've, again, spent plenty of money trying to take care of a problem that I wasn't asked to take care of, but, you know, the fire department's not getting water out of the pond if there's no water in it.
Well, one thought I have here is, you know, we have allowed, you know, use, you know, as of right functions to, you know, for like a homeowner, if they've got a little stream or brook, you know, flowing through their property, but, you know, a bunch of trees fall down, fall into it, and it starts, you know, backing the stream up and making it change its course. You know, we do allow, you know, for that situation. And I'm almost thinking this might be an option here because I'm seeing, you know, that all that brush that's growing up and it's probably created kind of like what a snow fence does, you know, or a sand fence, you know, along dune systems. You know, all that brush and all that debris is getting snagged up and it's causing the silt to drop out and build up. And now it's starting to come across the field instead of continuing on through the pond. So maybe it would just be a matter of just cleaning all that out and kind of reestablishing the original, you know, depth and flow of the brook or the, you know, temporary stream, if that's what it is. But I don't know. What do you think, other commissioner members? You know.
Bill Rowinski.
Mark,
Yeah, go ahead.
I just
I kind
want
of,
to agree with you that all that brush that you see has grown up over the time that we've lived here.
Right.
We try to maintain it and keep it. It's mostly invasive autumn olives and multiflora. And if you drove by there now, you'd see that we've pulled out almost all of it to try and get the brook to flow to the pond. So we've cleared all of that brush that you see.
Okay. Go ahead, Bill. You had a thought?
well, I'm kind of thinking that if I'm thinking that I'm on the same line of thought as Marla is, we don't really have probably, or I don't have much objections about clearing out the pond, but it's a matter of how the water is getting there from Payne Road, that there's might be some engineering that needs to be involved in there, because otherwise we might just be pushing the problem further downstream and right into the pond. So it might be worth looking at how the water goes under the road and then how it gets to the pond, looking at that in more detail. But the pond, doing clearing and doing whatever with the pond itself I don't have a problem with that.
Hey, Bill,
Yeah,
question for you. If we cleared out the pond, but we don't do something different from the road down to the pond,
yeah,
nothing will change. The pond will just be dried up and it'll just be cleared of any topsoil that's washed in, but the problem won't be fixed. The pond will not be filled for the majority of the year for anybody's use.
Bill, again, I understand that. And I'm also looking at the opposite thing, is if you put that big pipe in there, then you have a big chute that might increase velocity into the pond and increase the silt in the pond. Foot rate also.
Well, that's why we were talking about the 3 impervious dams before the
Yeah.
culverts, then the plunge pool after the culverts that run under the driveway, so that the only thing running through the pipe would be clear water, which comes from the top of the plunge pool, and all the sediment would go to the bottom, and we maintain that by clearing it out when the sediment was starting to fill up.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm just concerned that we need to look a little bit more at that and provide a solution that's going to not create problems for you in the future. And, maybe the town needs to be involved in correcting something on the Payne Road end of it. And there might be some engineering that should be involved in getting the water down to the pond in a way that's going to give clear water into the pond.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, Stuart, go ahead.
Stuart Peasler here. Ron, I think that what you've got is totally valid. And for agricultural purposes, it's definitely a solid premise for what you want to do. I think what Marla and Bill are trying to convey is that it would be prudent to do some analytical work with regards to the amounts of water flow that will be, something that you have to deal with in different storm levels. 10 years, 20 years, 50 years, 100-year storms, each will have different consequences. And I would also question, I don't think that there is any, I would want to get a definition of what those wetlands are. I don't know that it really is an issue for you. I think that, like I say, I think that it's probably just going to require some investment in the engineering of the hydrology, just to determine the correct sizing. Because I mean, it makes sense what you're taking a reasonable approach, and you want to do those the dams, the 3 dams, but it really needs to be looked at by a professional. Not to discredit the contractors and what you're doing and everything, but I just think that it needs to have some third-party review.
I understand and appreciate that. And I was just wondering, I know engineering was done when the driveway, the subdivision was put in, and the 3 culverts that run under the driveway always seemed like overkill based on the 1 culvert that came underneath the road. To see
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it was done in an ad hoc manner, and I think it needs to be done. It needs to be reviewed with an overview master plan to look at those different scenarios and what you can really benefit from here. The goal is that you get you reestablish the vitality of that pond for your cattle.
Right.
That makes perfect sense. And the byproduct, of course, is having the dry hydrant, which is beneficial to the community. But I definitely see the premise for agricultural use, and I think that the wetlands should not inhibit that as of right use. if there is any wetlands. We don't even know there is wetlands. That's where, if there was, we would get it determined by the engineering overview.
So is there anything he can do at this point? Is there anything that you will allow him to do at this point before getting an engineer?
You're breaking up, Tina.
Sorry, is there anything that you will allow him to do at this point before getting an engineer involved?
I'm just saying it's a suggestion to answer the questions that, you know, have been put forth. I suppose that I'm not actually saying he has to have this engineering done. I'm just saying if he wants the ultimate optimized solution that satisfies his goals, that would be an investment worth making.
So this is coming before you as a use permitted as of right application. So are you requesting a different application?
Myself, no. I would support the as of right use.
Marla?
I do not support what is on the table right now, only because I can't really tell what's going on. One, I don't know where those three, there's no site plan for what he proposes to do. I don't know where exactly those three impervious dikes are. I'm concerned that the way they're constructed, they could potentially overtop and cause greater erosion than what has already occurred. Second, I'm not convinced that the piping of the water course or the piping is in fact covered as a agricultural exemption, but I need to see a site plan to know where he wants to put the piping. We don't have a site plan. Any
May I-
request for use permitted as of right that has structural changes on the ground should have a site plan. So there needs to be a drawing of some sort.
Mark, may I?
Go ahead. Stuart Peasley, go ahead.
Stuart Peasley here. I think that the last case we had set a precedent, which is in contrast to what the commission member is speaking about. I think there wasn't a site plan. There wasn't proper planning. It was based on confusion and done in an ad hoc way. And I think that caused problems. So I don't think I have any problem at all with this as a premise. And we just have to be consistent.
I don't think
Okay.
there's enough detail as to exactly what it's going to look like and whether or not there's going to be a hydraulic problem. He could
We
have
didn't-
worse
We
problems.
didn't have that.
If
We
it's
had
his
more.
let me finish. If his culvert size that he wants to put in is inadequate to carry the flows that come out from his driveway, if his driveway overtops and can't get into that pipe, then he'll have much more massive erosion than what he has now. It needs to be checked out to make sure that the sizing of the piping, I have no problem with dredging the pond and side casting the spoils somewhere that's not wetlands. I have no problem with that. But I do have a problem with piping a water course without any engineering review or knowing exactly where it's going to be occurring. This is a
May I
little
speak?
different. The work hasn't already been done on this project.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you go in a second, Stuart. I just wanted to say from the information that Ron has presented, I guess I do have a little bit of concern with the proposed three impervious, dikes or berms or whatever, in that the section north and west of his driveway. I'm thinking that might be a little. I don't feel comfortable about that being part of the use permitted as of right, because that's, if it isn't done right, it could, if in the future those dikes were to breach, then, there'd be problems with, as Marla mentioned, the driveway overtopping, et cetera. So I would just say, it's my opinion that we need more information on, how, you know, what water will be retained during a storm event with those dikes, and will they be, you know, adequate to hold it? You know, that I don't know, in my mind, that's a little bit more than I don't, you know, I would agree with you on the lower part, all the work, you know, that Ron is proposing for, you know, from his driveway down to the pond, you know, that's a little, you know, but the upper piece that's kind of a little more than I would consider. So anyway, I would personally like to see more information and more hydrology work done on, you know, what's going to happen if those three pervious dikes are put in. But go ahead, Stuart. What were you going to say?
I think every project that comes in to these meetings should have more information for us to look at.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something I've been talking about since I've been involved. And that's not the issue. I think that the issue really needs to be with the process, the quality of the process, and the consistency of what we produce. So in this case, I think the goal is worthy. It's how we get there is just that has to be determined. And I think that the landowner is of and wants to do the right thing. I don't think that's an issue at all. He's not trying to circumvent the regulations. So it's just a question of, you know, what are the best steps for him to take. So the engineering is not a big deal. Just hire an engineer, get the hydrology done, get the soils tested, everything that you need to do, and then you're going to have peace of mind. We're all going to have peace of mind. There won't be any conflict or confusion, and that's what should be happening, in my opinion.
Bill Rowinski again.
Go ahead, Bill.
Just a suggestion that it might be worthwhile to contact Jean Pillow from the Eastern Connecticut Conservation District. And she touched base with her and started a discussion with her, especially about the cattle next to the pond, because she's done a lot of work in this part of Woodstock on trying to clean up Roseland Lake. And some of the farms have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to redo how they manage their manure. And I think she would want to be involved, even if she's okay with what you're doing, in what happens and how it happens. Maybe she would have some other ideas, or she could somehow be involved in the process also.
Oh, may I say something? One suggestion is I always want to encourage more site visits. Go and see, get out there. I would love to see it myself. I would love to get a sense for it. When we looked at those videos, that changed my whole perspective from what Google Earth or anything else was telling me, any of those other photographs. That's vital information that we need up front to be able to have an intelligent discussion. So that was very helpful for me to be able to, you know, get a sense for what we're talking about. And that would be even better. And I would love to go out there and meet with anybody who would want to do so at the same time, because then you're really going to get a sense for it. You're going to be able to make better decisions.
Hey, Mark, Ron Petro, may I?
Go ahead, Ron.
I agree with Stuart, and I welcome anybody to come out here and see what I'm trying to do. Just for everyone's information, I have 6 rescued pet cattle that our family takes care of. I'm not in the dairy business or anything like that. They're rescues. That being said, I would like to give them as much grass during the course of the year as possible, but I can't put them down there where there's no water and it's too far from the house to be able to run water. And somebody mentioned earlier overrunning the driveway, and I can tell you that I've not called the town once to complain about all the times I have to get on my tractor and regrade the driveway because it overflowed, in my opinion, exactly for the reason I've stated, that the town put in a second culvert without doing any engineering on their own part. So the town has caused me much duress and a lot of money to try and correct their problems. And again, the first thing I did was have John Navarro come out and look at it, only to be told the volume of water didn't change. And I think, Bill, you hit the nail on the head. The volume might not have changed, but the velocity sure did. That velocity carried soil, vegetation, tree branches, and everything else down the stream and created bigger problems for me, overran my driveway to the point where I had foot-deep ruts in it that I had to buy more gravel and fill in and regrade. So this has cost me a lot of money. And to me, I'm just trying to fix a problem that somebody caused for me.
Okay.
So, you know, I would appreciate knowing exactly what I can and can't do, because I've had this project on hold for 3 weeks now, when everything I read says that I have the right to do this. And, you know, many people have said, even if the town took you to court, they would lose. I'm not looking to cost anybody else money, but I certainly don't want to have to go out and hire an engineer or an attorney for all of this. All I want to do is fix a problem and stop the soil from eroding and pushing into the hayfield, the flooding that occurs, the pond not having any water in it, and God forbid there should be an emergency in the area where the fire department comes looking for water, because they're not going to find it. So I'm trying to take care of a problem. You tell me what I can and can't do from this point forward, because we've been at a screeching halt for 3 weeks.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Go ahead, Stuart.
Ron, I don't think I understand and appreciate where you're coming from. I think the cost of the engineering is not prohibitive and would weigh in very well with what your goals are. That being said, I don't know what the actual price is, but I think that it would get you the fastest results, and you'd be back on track in probably the quickest, best time. So it's really looking at it for a return on your investment in that activity. You're going to get a good result with the right guy, or what people, women, what doesn't matter. But, you know, the investment in the analysis is really important.
I understand. I agree. I'm just wondering, Tina, maybe you can find out if an engineer was hired when they put the second culvert in, because maybe that person has all the answers already, and I don't have to spend more money when the money's already been spent. I would think that an engineer had to have looked at it before a roadway was torn up and a second culvert put in.
My response to
Go
that.
ahead.
But that culvert, even if it was done without engineering, it was still done with different conditions. And your conditions are unique and need to have that specialized attention. I mean, we can't take a one size fits all approach to what you want to do. And I think that's what Marla and Bill are trying to convey as well, is that this is a unique, your property is unique, every property is unique. I can't just say, well, the state highway department put in a 18-inch culvert down there, so it must be good enough. We can't think like that. So in order for you to make sure that your road's not going to get topped, you know, just do a quick study on what the sizing, the proper sizing is, and it's probably going to be better than what the state or the town did. So,
So right now, I just need to find out if a 30-inch culvert will accept the two 18-inch culverts that come under the road.
depends on whether it's a 50-year or 10-year or 25-year or 100-year. You know what we're seeing now with these different events is hard to predict. You know, it depends on not just meeting code, but also what do you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, and
Mark?
Ron, I would just like to also just add, I mentioned before the three dikes. I would not feel comfortable as a commissioner saying, yeah, go ahead and do it. Because I want you to be protected. I want to make sure that you know that those dikes are put in properly and they're going to do the job that you want them to do, which is, I imagine, retain some of that peak storm flow so that it'll hold it back a little bit over time so that then it will, get released, downstream. And if those dikes aren't put in right, then you could be hurting yourself in the future. So I just, as a commissioner, I would not feel comfortable right now saying, yeah, go ahead, do it. I think you need to do a little bit more work. I know for me, if it was me, would want to know, that the people that are putting that in, the contractor that's putting that in is putting them in right, that they're of the right size and structure. And, if you're going to have, weirs installed on them for some of the water to flow over without eroding those dikes, that's another aspect of this proposed project that you're working on. I want you to be careful and be safe and, not move too fast on some of these parts of this project. So anyway.
Mark?
Yeah, go ahead, Bill.
Mark?
Oh, who is that? Marla? Sorry. Go ahead,
Marla.
Yep.
I would like to go and take a look at the site with Tina. I want to check out Payne Road. I want to see exactly what the town did, see what the town has in its files regarding the construction of the driveway, the hydraulics on the driveway. I'm really concerned that Mr. Petro, you said something about your driveways overtopped and that you've had to regrade it a couple of times. That implies to me that now the culverts under your driveway may be undersized. We haven't had a 50-year return frequency storm for a while. I believe there was a 100-year, almost 100-year return frequency storm, what, in 2007, 2006? And that was before the pipe was done. So the fact that your road is overtopping is of concern, that if you put in a pipe downstream that's unable to handle that flow that overtops the road, then it's not going to make it through the pipe and it's going to go overland and it's going to cause erosion and probably worse conditions. You might have been better to have tried to do an open channel from your driveway down to the pond that was wide enough to handle the flows and stabilized, maybe with some check dams in between to reduce the velocities and not put it in a pipe at all. These are some of the alternatives that you might want to look at, but without having a site plan and knowing what the hydraulics are doing, you're at a situation where you could create things worse than what they are now, because you could end up with overtopping of that 36-inch pipe. Maybe not. I don't know, but that's something that you should know. The other thing is you haven't described how deep you want to dig the pond. The size of ponds, maximum slope in a pond underwater is 3 to 1. And I don't know how much cubic yardage you're planning on pulling out of there, how you're going to handle the disposition of the soils, where you're going to deposit them. Those are some of the things that you need to plan out ahead of time too. And so how deep are you planning to make the pond?
Marla, we're not.
How much cubic yardage are you?
I'm sorry, I thought you asked.
That's okay. How much cubic yardage are you expecting to be pulled out? Your contractor should have been able to have given you an idea on that.
Well, what he said is he just was gonna go down to the hard pan, the clay liner that's there. I know that being out there with him, there's 2 to 3 feet of muck around the edges of the pond, which is nothing but soil that's washed in, leaves, compost, so on. We're going to take that and spread that over the areas where we cleared out the invasive brush that was there, to just reclaim and reseed that and just have grass growing there again, more hay for my animals. So that's what we're gonna do. As far as how much he knows, I haven't asked him for the exact cubic yardage that he's planning to pull out of there. But that's what we were planning on doing with it, keeping it on site. But the pond is not going any deeper than it was already dug when whoever dug it years and years ago for their cattle.
Tina, do we have any details of when that pond was dug? Or if there was any permits that were issued for it?
I did not research it. I'm not aware of anything.
Because it's not common to put clay liners in ponds that are agricultural ponds like that. I've seen them for golf courses where they've tried to hold the water for irrigation purposes, but not agricultural ponds. That's why I was surprised when you said there's a clay liner. How do you know there's a clay liner to it?
That's what my contractor said.
How did he know that?
I'm not sure. He's been doing this for years. I'm not sure how he knows that, but he said there's a clay liner. Somebody built this pond right.
Oh. If we had some, if we had some information on the pond other than just, that the contractor said there was a clay liner, how do we know he knows there was a clay liner?
Well, maybe there's not a clay liner. Maybe.
Did he do?
But he
Maybe
said,
there's not. Maybe you're on hard pan. Maybe you're on gravel. And maybe you don't have enough water because it also seeps back into the ground. What are the soils in that area? A soil scientist could probably tell you all that stuff about what the native soils were and what they are and give you an idea. But it's more important to get the engineering than it is to get the soils information. The soils information we can get from the soils mapping. Actually, the Eastern Connecticut Conservation District may be able to give you some help with this. And Jean Pillow works for them, and so does Judy Rondo. You might ask for some assistance from them, and I think Tina has their contact information. Do you have, Tina, have the Eastern Connecticut Conservation District's information? He could touch base with them and find out what assistance they might be able to help provide to you as a property owner. The town does, I believe, donate some money to the district to help support them, so this would be an appropriate use of some of those funds.
Yep.
I would recommend that we should consider tabling this to next month and until we can get more information on the water flows and the handling of it. And maybe have an idea of what alternatives might exist for Mr. Petro that don't involve culverting 300 feet of intermittent water course that may or may not cause problems down the road.
Comment by Bill Rowinski. Jean is not in Pomfret anymore at the Audubon. She's moved to whatever office it is there on Wolf Den Road in Brooklyn. Is it USDA or whatever?
Extension service.
The Extension Service.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's,
It's the extension center.
I believe that's where she is now.
That's where Judy is.
Mhm.
It's on their website.
So table till next month then?
If you could get that in. That's my recommendation.
Okay, I can give him that information. I can
Do you-
check with the town, with John Navarro to see if there's any information from engineering that was, that was reviewed with the culvert that went in. And what else?
Look to see if there's any information about the construction of the pond and the driveway. If there's any old permits.
And driveway, okay. Okay.
I'm really concerned about Public Works doing alterations and not coming to the Wetlands Commission first. Because I think that probably should have come to the Wetlands Commission before they put the culvert in.
So you're gonna click on my picture, and then you can,
But I think it needs to look at the site to see
yeah, and then you can.
And
if
did you want
that
to visit the
water
site?
course flows for more than just a. Yeah. Why don't I make arrangements with you and
Okay,
we can take a look at it together
okay.
in the next, well, Christmas is coming, but in the next 2 weeks,
Yeah, I have time.
is
Just let
that
me know.
possible?
How about us, Mark and Bill? Would you like to go too? Or
That
is
would
this-
be a meeting.
Well, I think that
You want to do it
It's really-
separately?
it's really important that everyone go out there at some point. I think that has to be a protocol that more people are doing.
Bill
I-
Lewinsky,
That's my opinion, but I would love to go out there with anybody that would want to spend time with me. I'd go by myself.
Well, you're welcome anytime, Stuart.
Thanks, Ron.
Bill Lewinsky, I'm in the neighborhood and I'm sort of familiar a little bit with the site, so I might swing by at some point.
Okay, so procedurally, I hear a motion to table this to next month. Do I have a second?
Second by Bill Lewinsky.
Motion's
Who
been made.
did the first, me?
Yes. I accepted your suggestion as a motion.
Okay,
So the motion's made by Marla Butts to table this to next month, seconded by Bill Rowinski. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right,
Opposed?
aye.
Abstained? So moved. So yeah, and Tina has received, some instructions to dig up some more information on, how the town did it and so forth. And I guess I would just chip in, I'd like to get a little more information on, what those impervious, dikes will do and, what type of water it will hold back and purposes, et cetera. I just want to feel comfortable that it's going to provide the appropriate, correction and protection of Mr. Petro's driveway and lower pond. So,
one more thought. Sorry, Mr. Chair.
yeah, go ahead. Stuart.
If
Yeah.
we do make site visits, one thing I'd like to add is that make a field report. For those of us who can't make it, it'd be great to share your observations.
Yeah. Great. Thank you. Yeah, I agree. So, okay. Thank you, everyone. Boy, good discussion. Good interaction. Thank you, Ron. We'll get on this. Okay. I'd like to move on to the next item under new business. Use permitted as of right for Edward Fleming III, 13 Lebanon Hill Road, removal of dead trees and thinning of understory. Okay. Edward, are you on the call or a representative?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Okay, hi. Okay. Commission members, do you have any questions?
Just want to look up Google Earth.
Is there a site plan for this?
Yes. Did you get that? Yes, there
Is
is.
that the KWP map for Heckendorf?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I didn't get that.
You didn't get it?
Let me check. Sorry.
Mine was paper clipped to the header
got it.
page. You got it?
Yep, I got it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
Bill Lewinsky, I have a question. Is
Go ahead,
there any type of trail or road or anything on that property that goes down where you plan to clear?
There is a shared driveway that's between the 13 Lebanon Hill Road on the north side of it on the map. In that driveway, I should know the property above us offhand, but I don't. We were planning on, we're hoping to clear out some of the dead trees and understory up in that area along the shared driveway.
Okay, Bill, again, I'm looking at the highlighted lines on the survey map. And I'm assuming that's the area you plan to clear, but is there any type of a path or cut road in that area?
I'm under the impression there's not, and we're also not interested in like doing a full land clearing of the entire area. We wanted to start by just removing the dead and rotten trees and try to make it accessible.
Because the question would come is if we're going to be exposing soils that could erode down into the pond, it would be a whole different story.
I think that, oh, I'm sorry, may I speak? Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Stuart.
Yeah, it would be good to include in the removal of dead trees and stuff. Maybe you could come up with some ideas for what you'd want to plant or promote the growth of for the understory. You know, what would help regenerate the forest that's there.
Yeah, that's it's really interesting. It's also worth mentioning that the land was protected under like the P490, I think, from the previous owners, and I'm under the impression we can't renew that until next year. But we are not interested in touching a very large majority of the acreage of this plot, and want to leave it as just natural woodlands. It's in its own right. And yeah, took a note. We also did get a soil report from Wetlands and Environmental Consulting, Connecticut Wetlands. And he kind of talked through some of this and like did a revisit of the wetlands map, which looked almost identical to the original wetlands mapping that was provided by Tina.
Have you had any foresters look at it? Might be worth, you know, at some point just having a consultation or two.
We've only really spoken with Seth, who's joined us on this Zoom right now.
Oh, okay,
Beth Spalding is helping them.
great.
Yeah, and we also just wanted to outline that we're just looking at, you know, a straight shot down from the shared driveway, maybe like, I don't know, 9 feet, something like that wide.
9 feet, maybe a bit more.
9 feet wide, and just straight shot down to the water in terms of thinning the trees, and only the like water frontage has actual wetlands on it, but most of the property does not. So it's only in that, you know, 500 feet or so from the shared driveway to the water is where we're interested in, you know, thinning down the trees so we can have like access to the property, because right now it's all forest land. So we're not looking to like take down a bunch of trees and, you know, do any sort of timber harvest or anything.
I would just responding, Mark.
Go ahead.
I would probably just delineate a little more clearly on the site plan. You know, it's almost, you know, just a little diagrammatically about what you're talking about, a 7-foot wide pathway. And I would assume that you're going to be, are you de-stumping or are you going to take the stumps or leave them?
No, we will be leaving the stumps.
So I would just make notes like that and, you know, make a more clear definition on the site plan where that, because this is what I'm looking at of site plan, and you've highlighted with a yellow marker. So I would just be more definitive.
Okay.
Maybe.
Sure, we can do that.
So if they're cutting trees in the upland review area, would that be acceptable for an agent sign off?
Marla Butt speaking.
Go ahead, Marla.
As long as they're not clear cutting in the upland review area, it's not a regulated activity. So they don't need a permit for that. The only time that they need a permit or some kind of approval for cutting of trees is if they're actually cutting in the wetlands, selective cutting, or if they're clear cutting the upland review area. Otherwise, it doesn't require an approval from the commission. It's it's not regulated by the commission.
And their plan is to do neither. They want a
Right.
park-like effect out of it. And as you can see by your map, on the north side it's flanked by a property line. And on the south side, it's flanked by the wetlands flagging. So it's actually almost comes to a point where it meets the pond. So it's a very limited area of thinning, and it's, again, there was a lot of blowdown. So it's that stuff, and there is a number of dead standing hemlock, which are very dangerous. So they're looking to, that's what they're looking to have removed, and that's it. There are a number of nice large red oaks. All of that's going to stay.
So this is a use, sorry, this is a use permitted as of right then.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, and the language at face value is clear to me that, removing the dead trees, fallen trees, thinning of the understory, that's not clear cutting. So that's, if I take it at face value and what Seth just explained, I feel comfortable with it being, and I just, but just taking a little, extra time to also put down in writing, what is done, stumps will be left. If you're gonna get some grass seed in there, as soon as you can afterwards, so that, you minimize, any erosion, from, your equipment, going through there and creating the ruts, but maybe you'll do it during the winter time, so, and you won't have the ruts, but.
Might not
Even
be a
if
bad
we,
idea, because it's such a, as I said, it comes to such a point
Yeah.
to put a couple of U-shaped rows of silt fence.
Yeah, good, right.
Maybe 100, one right down near where the flagging comes across the tip of that property, right at the pond, and then maybe 100 feet up. And that way, if we do have that 100-year storm like you guys were talking
Right.
about in the last application, we've got it covered.
question, you're not proposing any grading, are you,
I'm not.
No.
Mr. Fleming? No.
Oh, no.
So actually, this would, even if the work right next to the water course were in wetlands, it could classify as a non-regulated use, because it is an area for recreation. And it's not altering the natural indigenous character of the wetland or water course because they're not doing any grading. So it would classify as a use, a non-regulated use under the statute. So I would move. There was a question though, Tina, was there a fee involved here?
No, no fee.
So
One other
I
thing
would,
that the landowners had mentioned is when we get down to the pond itself, there is a little bit of very small growth. Maybe Tina wants to come out and look at it. That if it's okay with the wetlands agency, the landowners would like removed. That would be something that I would do strictly on foot and by hand.
well, I would move to approve a UP Edward Fleming's application as a non-regulated use.
I second the motion.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Marla Butt, seconded by Stuart Peasley to approve this application as a use permitted as of right, non-regulated use, yep. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. All right, thanks. Yeah, Tina, you can just keep tabs on it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Okay, moving on, old business. Application 10-20-32, George Harakali, 10 Loyola Road Extension, replace existing wall with concrete wall on same footprint. Okay. I know I saw it here somewhere. Kind of a handwritten,
So Mr.
Yeah.
Harakali is not on the call, but he does have a representative here, the contractor doing the work, Mr. DOJ.
Yes, I'm Rick Doday. I'm putting in the wall for George.
okay. Do any of the commissioners have any questions?
Marla Butts speaking. I'm satisfied with the application and with the follow-up correspondence that the town received on the 28th of November.
I'm fine with the information provided and the design.
Stuart?
I forget, in the section drawing, what is the height of that stone wall?
I think it's about 30 inches, maybe 36.
And the depth?
I think we're 6 inches below grade, a concrete footing. And that, I think that's what we needed confirmation on, was there was going to be wire mesh and rebar in the footing.
All right, yeah, I mean, I was just wondering about that. Maybe you want to go with a 6-inch footing instead of 4-inch. My only,
Yeah.
and not anything other than the fact that you want it to last longer than 20 years, right? You don't want this to, you don't want to come back.
Right, yeah.
I don't know. That's something to consider.
No, I agree. 6 inches wouldn't be bad.
Other than that, I'm fine with it. Looks good. You know, I'd say that would be just a recommendation.
Mark,
Yeah, go ahead, Marla.
I move to approve application 10-20-32. George Harakali, 10 Loyola Road Extension to replace the existing wall with a concrete wall on the same footprint with the requirement to have a 6-inch footing. And yeah, as submitted.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Thank you. Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to approve application 10-20-32. Replace existing wall on concrete wall on same footprint with a 6-inch footing. 6-inch footing.
You know, thank you very much.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, application 11-20-36, Town of Woodstock, Peak Brook Road, bridge replacement. Have anything more on this?
Bill Rowinski,
Go ahead, Bill.
I didn't find anything that I thought was questionable or problematic when I look through the drawings. The most remarkable thing is that there's approximately 40 feet of sediments, of sand and silt.
Can I add something? I did get an email from Pete Parent when I did contact him about the meeting this evening about further documentation. And he asked if it could be tabled till next month because they are awaiting some review discussions with the state and they may need to make some changes to the plan. So they are asking for this to be tabled.
Marla, you're muted.
Thanks.
Hey, there you go.
I noticed we didn't get the hydraulics report, and so I was looking to see that, to see how they designed it, what size storm, that kind of thing. So yeah, I would move to table application 11-20-36 to next month's meeting, pending any additional information from the engineer.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to table application 11-20-36 to next month. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? So moved. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to application 09-20-23, Noreen Stellick, Route 294, Route 198, Phragmite removal in the pond. What's the status
Again,
on this?
Bruce Woodis is not, he still has some further work to do on this with the Stellics. He asked for both of these to be tabled till next month's meeting. He said if an extension is required, please consider this to be a written request for 60-day extension for both Stellic applications. I did get that today.
Marla Butts speaking. We don't need an extension under the governor's orders under COVID. We have an additional 90 days to render decisions, so I would move to table both application 09-20-23 Noreen Stellick and 09-20-24 William Stellick to next month's meeting.
Second by Bill Rowinski.
Motion's been made by Marla Butts, seconded by Bill Rowinski to table applications 09-20-23 Noreen Stellick and 09-20-24 William Stellick to next month's business meeting. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Abstained? So moved. Thank you. All right. Wetlands Agent Activity Report.
Yes, let me, yep.
Yeah, once we got through that initial new business, boy, we've been moving along. Yay.
All right, I'm working on a new home going into Applin Hill subdivision, new home, well septic. I'm almost done reviewing that. That will require agent sign off. We have another new home that I did sign off on for Old Meadow Road, Lot 1. That would be Shane Pollock, new home construction. And then this month I had, or November, this is for November, 245 Rocky Hill Road, utility shed. That was an agent sign off. That's it. And I did go out to a complaint at 725 Route 198. I met with the property owner. I had a complaint this summer regarding removal of a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees. It's pretty much sloped down to what appeared to be standing water, wetland area. That was bare soil when I went out there. Basically, what he was trying to do was have a yard, and apparently, there was a lot of garbage strewn through and just was difficult. So he had a contractor out there, and he didn't get any permits to do this because the work was in the upland review. And it was sloped down to what appeared to be, standing water and wetlands, and he did have a silt fence up. So he's in the process of applying and getting an application into me. I think the site does need to be stabilized. So it's, like I said, it's all bare soil. So I can see why the neighbor might have been concerned if it, was the neighbor that complained.
Mark, I have a question.
Go ahead, Stuart.
Is that bare soil that was trucked in?
He did mention that there were a couple of loads brought in to make a yard, not put in the wetlands, but,
Couple? A couple?
that's what he said. The contractor met us on site, so.
Well, I mean, I don't know if it matters or not, but a couple times something.
He did provide, once I get the application from him, I will, have you look over the application if you'd like. It appears to be an agent sign off to me.
Oh,
But,
just my 2 cents, just my 2 cents.
right,
I happen to be watching it in progress. And there's a lot of trucks going in.
he's on the top of a hill. I didn't see any
Right.
filling of wetlands. I didn't see anything like that. He had a silt fence down at the bottom of the hill. And it was clear that he was just trying to make a lawn area is his plan. So he plans on seeding it, and it should be fine once,
Okay.
we get into the springtime. But, as far as damaging wetlands, I didn't see anything like that.
Tina, what kind of cover does he have on the raw soil at this point in time?
Nothing, and I
Is
did
it bare?
ask, it is bare. I did stop him from doing any
Okay,
further
is it-
work, but
Oh, that's why.
yeah, but once
So-
I went out there, then I said, well, you really should, I guess
Can't hear you.
give me 1 second.
Marley, do you think maybe he should get some hay down on it or get something to try to stabilize it through the winter?
Well, if he's got it loamed already, does he have it
Doesn't.
loamed already? No, he
No,
doesn't. Yeah,
no.
then he should put down temporary mulch, which is 100% cover with hay. If he'd had the loam down, he could have done frost crack seeding after the ground freezes. That's described in the ENS guidelines. But
Yes,
if he doesn't have the loam down, then
Yes, I did
he
ask
should
him.
be. Hmm.
So I did, I'll send you out the email that I sent him, and I did ask him to stabilize with straw or mulch or an erosion control blanket, for the winter.
I wouldn't use a blanket. That's too expensive for this time of year.
Okay,
And he's gonna put loam down after it. So he would really best use hay. And then does he have a tracker, vehicle that's got tracks? Like a tractor that has tracks?
well, the
He can track
contractor,
the hay into the.
yeah, I don't know.
Well,
I
if
can
he's got it,
find out.
yeah, well, what he can do is he can track the hay right into the soil with a track vehicle if he's got one on site. So
I
you
think
lay
you
down the
gotta-
heavy hay and then a heavy layer of hay, and then you run your machinery back and forth up and down the slope, and it pushes the hay into the soil, makes for a better erosion control.
Okay.
I think I've seen a skid steer and a
And the
mini.
cleats of the track vehicle can actually create little bars that will help to control erosion. But it has to go up, and he has to go up and down the hill, not not parallel to the contours. Has to go perpendicular to the contours to make that work.
Okay. I will give him that message,
Mhm.
and that's all I have.
Great, thank you. All right. Any other administrative business, communications?
No,
Okay. Any citizens' comments? It looks like all the citizens have dropped off.
I have,
Other topics?
Yeah, Peter, yeah. Stuart?
I have a question.
go ahead, Marla.
I'm really concerned about what I'm hearing about happened on Payne Road. And I really think that we need to investigate when that was done and why it was done and why John didn't come to talk to us about it ahead of time. Because we've had enough interactions with John. And we could have avoided a lot of problems if we had looked at it ahead of time.
Yeah.
So Tina, I really want to find out, from John why he went ahead and did it. Maybe it was dry when he did it. Maybe he thought there wasn't a water course there.
Yeah.
But it's on the maps as being a water course, so.
Mm-hmm.
And that creates a potential risk to the town. Litigation wise, so.
So maybe the town should have to get an engineer to look at it, is that? If we don't,
I don't
if
know what
that
John
didn't
did before he
happen,
put the pipe in.
okay,
What did John do before he put the pipe in? What made him decide what size pipe to put in? We don't know. What was his decision-making process? He's gonna need to tell us. And if it comes out that, that is a regulated area, then he's actually potentially subject to notice of violation for having done work without authorization. So needs to come and explain to us about that, or at least give us some explanation,
okay.
because this is problematic.
Yeah, I'm just concerned, Mr. Petro's already spent a ton of money and, for him to have to hire an engineer now just adds to that cost.
Well, it's a problem that.
Does John have funding to do engineering?
I can't answer that, I don't know.
Bill, you were gonna
Well,
say something? I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
it's a problem that Ron didn't create, really. And as the town, to me, the town has the liability there. And he has a legitimate complaint with the town. To me, you should probably bring it to the selectmen even.
Okay.
Well, I think that raises a good point about accountability for if a action or activity is in violation, then it should be noted for the record that accountability has to be assigned.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, on another note, I'll just go ahead. My term limit comes up this month, end of the month, and I'm going to plan on taking a sabbatical.
Oh,
So what I will say is if you need a substitute just for a quorum, give me a heads up. But I've got a lot of things that need attention, and I got to put the time in. So just wanted to give you a heads up. I just recently made this. Brenda brought it up. My term expires. I was having so much fun, but
I'm sure they want to renew it for you. I'm sure they'd be happy to renew it.
yeah, I just got to gauge my time and how to use it best. And it's an opportunity for me. One thing that is pressing, that project that it's been hanging on for years down in New York, it looks like it's finally getting approval. So I've got to be dancing around with that, and that's a real energy.
So Stuart,
Sorry to hear that.
Stuart, would you be willing to take an appointment as an alternate?
Yeah, I was thinking of that. Yeah.
I don't know what does that actually, what's that mean? Just like,
Well, that would mean you would be on the commission as an alternate delegate. And if Tina knows ahead of time that, say, Victor Peabody isn't going to be able to be there, she could,
you could give me a
you know,
call.
give a call to you, and, you know, you might be able to fill us in so that we have quorum for that night. But
Sure.
you wouldn't be required to be at every meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, if that would help out, I
Yep.
can do that.
So can we do that, Tina? Have the selectmen appoint him as an alternate?
Yep.
And let the the selectmen know if they could really do some legwork and help us find someone so that we can fill the full delegate position.
Yes, I will.
Yeah,
I'll ask around.
yeah, thank you.
I don't mean to drop this on you. That's why I want to say if I can be a substitute, and if that solves the problem, that alternate solution works.
Well, I say you appoint anybody that's on the call right now, like Ron Petro's still on, so we can just ask him. He won't mind.
Yeah. You would just have to abstain from discussion.
Yeah, that's fine. Just trying to be creative.
Yeah. All right, yeah, and the rest of you folks, you commissioners, if you know of somebody, you might want to talk to them and, you know, see if they could throw their hat into the ring. Let the selectmen know that they would be open for appointment. All right, anything else?
That's it.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move, Bill Rowinski.
I second it.
Motion's been made by Bill Rowinski, seconded by Marla Butts to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstained? So moved. At 9 p.m. Woo!